What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to Down to the Wire. I'm your host, Brian Costa, and today I've got a great episode in store for you. Now, I know I've been away for a couple of weeks now. I went on spring break, kind of took some time off. I wanted to get some content to you guys over that week, but just time got away from me. I'll explain a little bit about that later on in the show, but we got a great episode for you guys today. We're going to be breaking down the epic conclusion to the 2023 World Baseball Classic, and also talk about what the MLB can take away from this tournament and a whole lot of other stuff. It's going to be a great episode. I'm super excited for today. And if I'm talking MLB, there is one person, I've had him on the show before, and if there's one person I have to bring on to talk some baseball, it's going to be him. He's always he's always making great content on TikTok. He's a host on the Walk-Off podcast, and he does a lot of stuff in the baseball world. Mr. Joel Laflamme, aka Hey Kami, welcome back to the show.
Hey Brian,
Yeah.
happy to be back, especially today, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
mountaintop of baseball today. Just happy feelings.
I mean, it's weird though. Like, I'll say this, like, usually I'm having like these upbeat, like really amped kind of baseball discussions in late October, early November. It feels weird to be having this in March, Joel.
Yeah. To be on a, like, personally, like, right up there for the baseball highs that I've ever experienced in my life. I'm feeling that right now in March. It's Christmas in July. It's what's happening.
Yeah, it's just a great feeling. And that's the thing that I love about the World Baseball Classic. Now, the last time that they had this, it was 2017. I was a junior, or no, I think it was a sophomore in high school. And I remember it was USA versus Puerto Rico. And I remember it was a big deal because my Spanish teacher at the time was from Puerto Rico. And, she wasn't even like that into baseball, but she says, hey guys, Puerto Rico and the US, they faced off in like this baseball tournament. She's showing the highlights on the TV, and like everyone, like, it was the first time that then that it was the first time that, a baseball kind of themed thing was entertaining to people other than just the baseball kids in the school. And it was cool to kind of get that perspective on it and, see the cultural aspect that tournament has. So when it got canceled and, shut down for 2020 and 2021, I was really bummed out. And, I thought they were going to bring it back last year. It got pushed again due to COVID. And finally, we got the result this year. And wow, it was an amazing tournament. I was lucky enough to go to one of the games, but first of all, I want to break down the championship game. USA, Japan, two of the powerhouses for baseball across the world, probably the two places where it's, like one of the more, favored and dominant sports. You can talk about the Caribbean and those places too. But, these teams were absolutely loaded, and it was a great game.
Yeah. Population of, I'm going to spitball what Japan is about 150 million people, and 94% of families were tuned in. 94% of homes were tuned into that game.
Well, I don't know. Well, Joel, I don't. That was for the Mexico and Japan semifinal game. For this game, they found out it was 97% of all.
97%.
Yeah, so it went up higher.
It feels like 104% is somehow possible. It's just like, I mean, the popularity that this game has grown in Japan. I did a video on TikTok today about, 90 years ago, and Babe Ruth taking that tour through Tokyo and playing a bunch of their kind of national divisional teams that they have around. Sure. He spanked them all. He had like 15 home runs in 13 games. And that was like 39-year-old Babe Ruth at the end of his career. But you got a guy like E.G. Sawamura with 17. He strikes out Ruth. He strikes out Gehrig. He strikes out Jimmy Fox. He becomes a legend. They name their Cy Young after him. He dies a war hero in World War II, and just inspires the game on a completely different level. And the way that Japan learns baseball, it was actually taught to them. I don't know if you know this, but as a martial art.
Really?
They couldn't conceive of team sports because everything was judo, sumo wrestling. Everything was an individual martial art based on self-defense. There weren't any team sports. So they had to break down the concept of baseball as a martial art. So whenever you watch Japanese players on the field, if you ever watched like a movie like Mr. Baseball, just go watch the Japanese league. They're approaching it like it's a martial art. They do stretching like it's a martial art. All of their calisthenic workouts make it seem like they're getting ready for a fight.
I mean, I'll go off that. If you've ever seen photos of like Japanese like high school baseball teams, they're run like a military organization. Like
it is.
Like the running that they're doing, this like the different like exercises, it's crazy. It feels like these guys are ready to go to war, but instead they're just getting ready to play 9 innings. It's insane.
And they're taught it. Honestly, it looks like Casey Stengel, like 1950s New York Yankees. Like it looks like that kind of baseball. Everyone can bunt. Everybody can hit to the opposite field. Everybody can run the bases. Everybody can throw. Like there is no player on any team who's so deficient in any area. They're all baseball players, right? Yes. And only in that world could you create a Shohei Ohtani. Mm-hmm. And that idea where you have to be amazing at everything, where you have to look at every single aspect of the game and try to be a perfectionist in all of it. What does that create? It creates the perfect baseball player. And we saw him last night.
Yeah, I mean, Shohei absolutely, for lack of better words, showed out. He was dominant in the game, just like at the plate and also on the mound, closing it out in style. I mean, you want to talk, I mean, Joel, we were talking before the show that you write movie scripts. Like this is something that you like to do. You're really passionate and you have some projects on the way, which I'll be excited when you can finally announce that stuff. But, you want to talk about scripting a perfect ending to something like Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani coming up to the plate, game on the line. It really just felt in that moment, you were either going to have a ridiculous strikeout or Mike Trout was going to hit that ball 500 feet. Like you didn't feel like that at bat was going to go any other way.
Like the only damper that I can put on the entire thing was that Mookie Betts double play ball, yes, because it would have been nice if Trout was the winning run, but that's the like fractional issue that you can find with that at bat. Nothing. It was, first of all, the perfect at bat. No outcome is the wrong outcome, right? The only thing that I wouldn't want to have seen is a walk.
Yeah,
I want to see a walk.
A walk, a hit by pitch, just something like it would have been like, oh, like wow, what a waste.
But either a strikeout or a home run.
Yeah.
The exact polar opposites of the spectrum of outcome, I would have taken either of those. If Trout hits a 450-foot bomb, I would have been jumping for joy, equally as I was him being challenged with 100-mile-an-hour fastballs down the middle, leading into a strikeout. It was just, and very rare as a baseball fan, can you say that both sides, you're like, I don't care what happens, this or this will be equally joyful. And perfect script, perfect storm. Like the United States, Trey Turner, Grand Slam, the way that he was playing to beat Cuba, the way that they Japan beat Mexico down, 9th inning walk-off, Murakami double off the wall, scores Ohtani as a tying run, who leads it off with a double. Perfect script. Like Ohtani, the beginning of the game, Ohtani is hitting balls like Sadaharu O, like 500-foot home runs, like McGuire style. Everybody's gathering around like it's Mark McGuire, right? And then in the game, he hits a ball and beats it out like Ichiro.
Yeah.
Gives you a taste of Ichiro with a ground ball to double that he beats out. Ground ball to second base that he beats out. And then comes out and closes it with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. And like, that like signature splitter, he never used it, but it's just like, he's the perfect way to exemplify that team. And just, I don't know. I can ramble about this perfect script situation. You can't write it, right? You couldn't. That's unscriptable.
No, and yeah, I was about to say like the fact that Ohtani is able to just like a lot of people didn't realize that he had that kind of speed, just being able to bust it out of the box like that. It's insane. The fact that like he can do all this stuff and he's incredibly speedy too. I was watching all that. That was insane. And in like, this is probably the most high leverage situation that we've seen Ohtani playing in a tournament in America. Like unfortunately, you have Mike Trout and Shohei on the Angels. It's just not enough to get you into the playoffs, unfortunately, just because of the state of that team. But in a high leverage situation, do or die, game on the line, they put the ball in Shohei's hand, and it could have gone one or two ways. It could have been the way of Yu Darvish, where they put him in the game and things started to look a little bit shaky and you really didn't know where that was going to go. And you were kind of getting flashbacks to Game 7 of the 2017 World Series. Or it could have gone the way where it went with him. And he just absolutely was mowing guys down. I mean, that last pitch to Trout too, we talk about him throwing 100 miles an hour, but that last, thing was like an 87 mile an hour slider, had that ridiculous last second cut to it to go to just fall out of the zone. I was like, that no one is hitting that pitch. If anyone would have been able to hit that pitch, it would have been Mike Trout. And he even got fooled on it.
I've watched the at bat 10,000 times now. First pitch slider, Trout spits on it. Then the a 1-0 fastball, like middle, just middle challenge pitch. Then that 1-1 pitch was some sort of 100-mile-an-hour cutter that had a late little tail on it, and Trout spits on that. That pitch was gnarly. Then the 2-1 pitch is the most middle fastball I have ever seen in my life. I would like Pitch Ninja to go find a ball that is that middle, on the graph. Middle 100. As challenge of a fastball has ever been thrown in the game, and Trout was behind it. So he gasses up, overthrows 102 into the dirt, and Trout is 3-2. Trout knows fastball is coming. Knows it with every fiber of his being. I think everybody saw those 2 swing and misses on the fastball, and we felt fastball was coming. And then he spots that slider halfway, 40 feet to the plate. Trout tries to downshift his swing and go to a breaking ball swing, and then just flutters on it because it buckles him so bad. It was just a perfect at bat. He had to spot one slider, and I think Trout's going to be like, you didn't give me a fastball there. You ever see the Barry Bonds, Eric Gagne at bat? That was supposed to be just fastballs, man. But what an at bat. What a strikeout. I'll probably watch it another 1,000 times after we're done talking, honestly. So,
yeah, I mean, listen, Shohei deserved those MVP honors. He was absolutely phenomenal in that game and also just throughout the whole tournament. I don't think there was anyone else that was really better than him. He hit 400 throughout the tournament and then he also had an ERA under 2. I mean, he was ridiculous in this thing. And it's the type of thing where, I mean, I'm a USA fan. I wanted to see the United States repeat in the tournament, but, I think the commentators on Fox said it best. It didn't really matter who was going to win that game. Baseball won that night.
Yeah, baseball wins tonight. True words when spoken in the entire broadcast.
Yeah, and that's the thing because, Joel, we've seen it. The league has struggled so mightily with getting fans and trying to get people to actually care about the game. And they're trying to do all these new rule changes. They're implementing the pitch clock. They're banning the shift. They're doing all these different rules to try to, get more offense into the game and get people to care more. None of these rules were in the WBC. And this might be one of the most one of the most streamed baseball games of all time.
Well, baseball goes on this roller coaster of popularity, right? Things come along and people go, baseball's boring. Happened in the 60s and the 70s. Baseball got boring. Then Carlton Fisk hit a home run in the ALCS and changed all that. Yeah. Brought everybody back to baseball literally for 20 years. And then steroids kind of sullied it, right? We had the highs of the home run chase between Sosa and McGwire, the peak popularity of the game in the Major League Baseball sense of things.
And it wasn't steroids necessarily that sullied it. It was the fallout.
Yes. It was the highs of the steroid level led to the eventual falling off the cliff when you got the Senate hearings of 2005, you got the Mitchell report, you've got, baseball players being, found guilty of perjury, right? It's a low spot for the game.
Yeah.
And we're still dealing with it. We're still dealing with when we talk about Hall of Fame, this guy is the Hall of Fame, is the steroid, still this lingering thing that stays over the game and we just can't get it over it as a talking point. But then this happens. And it's everything that Major League Baseball has tried to orchestrate since Mike Trout got into the league. Just get him into the playoffs. Just let's see the best players when everything's on the line, when it's for all the marbles. We want to see Mike Trout at the plate. And we got that.
Yeah.
In this WBC, you knew in the 8th that Trout was going to be third up in the 9th, right? And you start texting people who don't know anything about baseball. You're like, I don't know if you like baseball. You should probably tune in right now because it's going to be a moment for the ages, right?
Yeah.
And anybody who tuned in because you said that is now talking to you the next day like, I'm a baseball fan. What's going on with baseball this year?
Yeah.
Right? We're talking about 90 million people around the world watching a game that didn't let down, that showed baseball in all of its beauty. Every baseball fan is getting, well, not everyone. There's a few that are don't like the WBC for some reason, but when it comes to magnitude and putting a spotlight on the game, we got Trout versus Ohtani. We got the gods of the game in their prime. We'll be able to look back at this 50 years from now and be like, we got this one at bat, right? We got this. And what could that lead to, right? There's a WBC in 2 years now, right? We're going to fast track the next one because of the COVID delay.
I think it's in 26, so it's in 3 years.
3 years, okay. So it's a little bit sooner. We don't have to wait. We don't have to wait that 6 years that we had to wait for this one. But now there's a battle cry to Team America, right? They just came in to the United States and on your home turf beat you guys at baseball.
Yeah.
Okay.
How are they going to respond to this?
Yeah. What are the Jacob deGroms and the Aaron Judges going to do next time when it's about, hey, you gotta, this tournament means a lot more. And for all those critics of the WBC that you can get hurt, Gavin Lux, Carson Kelly, there's plenty of players right now who are out for big chunks of the season, and they literally played in front of 7,000 people and nobody cares, and it didn't mean anything. So you want to talk about meaningless injuries and having an effect on the Major League Baseball season. And you're going to talk about, I will take a horrible Edwin Diaz injury for that final at bat. If that's what the cost is, a star may potentially go down every WBC. That's the cost of that type of baseball. Well, they play 33 damn preseason games, and every single one of those games have the equal chance of something happening bad. So,
yeah. I mean, that is, Joel, that is something I will talk to you about in just a second. Before we do kind of break down the injuries and all the stuff going on with the game, there were some other faces that, really showed out in this series. Like you mentioned, Trey Turner just turned into an absolute god, was basically Barry Bonds at the plate. I think it was 5 home runs in 5 games, tied the WBC record for home runs in the tournament. He was just absolutely electric. And I mean, well, we all know that Trey Turner's a star. He became like an American hero in that moment. It was amazing to see.
Yeah, it's talk about getting the big contract, and then as soon as you're on the stage, it's like he earned it for America, right? Yeah. Like he hasn't even played a regular season baseball game, and he's already earned like $50 million that 315 that the Phillies threw him. Now that his swing was something beautiful to watch, man. The way he was back on everything. He was just locked in, and that's a nice thing to see. That, like, is Trey shifting to that power approach as he hits 30, right? Like 50 stolen bases is something you don't carry into 35, and Trey Turner is going to be with the Phillies past 40, right? So he's going to have to gradually take that that slow shift to being a power hitter, and my God.
If that's what we can get, then we might
Those are all no doubters too, right? Those aren't wall scrapers. Those are monstrous bombs.
Yeah. So
monstrous situations.
Yeah, we might be in for a real treat if that's just like a little display of Trey Turner's power. That's unreal. So
National League have to be worried about, dealing with Trey, Bryce, and Schwarber. Castellanos gets his act together this year, and like, oof. The top end of that Phillies team, you got to go through that top end of that lineup, and it is a scary, scary situation.
It's brutal. It is brutal, that top of the lineup. So, I was really excited about that. A lot of people were excited about this ending, but something I saw that was kind of shocking was that not everyone was super hyped up about this ending. I saw that on ESPN, Christopher Mad Dog Russo, very popular figure in the sports world. Very, he knows his baseball. He has a great history of it. He covered the New York Yankees for many years. He went on First Take this morning, and he was like, all right, hold up. We got to pump the brakes on this, because basically he was just saying, like, this moment right here, this isn't Kirk Gibson against Dennis Eckersley in the World Series. This isn't Carlton Fisk in, hitting a home run in Game 6. This isn't that. This is a tournament. And I understand where he's coming from, because I understand, all right, if you want to talk about the best overall, like, talent pound for pound in the league, it is in the MLB. That is where you are going to have, the best talent competing every single time. I mean, the Japanese league is great. They're like, they bested us in this series, but if you want to talk about the best possible talent, you're going to find that in the MLB. I'm not questioning that, but that's not what the WBC is. The WBC is meant to do what the World Cup has done for many years for the game of soccer, where you have all these nations coming together. All these different players, they play for, I don't even know how many different clubs there are now, but they all play for all these different clubs. And for whatever it is, the 2-3 weeks that they play in the World Cup, they come together, they play for their nation, and they show that pride, and they go out there and they compete. And it's always competitive. It's a big event every single year. And while I'm not saying the WBC is at that level yet, that is the goal and where you want it to be. Is it always the best, is it always the best baseball on the planet? Sometimes those games are meh. Sometimes those games are fantastic, like we saw last night. And I think what the Shohei and Trout at bat shows is what this game can become. I think it shows what this tournament can evolve into, where you see 2 stars, 2 teammates, and 2 friends facing off against each other for a chance to be the top to be the top country in the world in this sport. I think this is a good moment and a good jumping off point for where this tournament can go to. I'm hoping that moment will inspire other teams and other players to participate in this tournament going forward. Because let's face it, going into the 2017 tournament, a lot of the buzz around this had kind of died down. I was excited about it because it was the first time I had really cared about the WBC, and seeing the U.S. actually go out there and win it was pretty important. Had they not gone out there and actually at least gotten one, because I think it was Japan the first 2 times, and then it was the Dominican Republic, which, great baseball nations of their own right. They deserve those titles. But I think it was important for the U.S. to get the one, because had they not, people would have just said, all right, the U.S. isn't even sending their best players. The fact that they haven't won it shows that, and this is a meaningless tournament anyways. Like, that's where I feel like them winning it in 2017 was really impactful. For Japan to now come out and say, like, all right, you can now bring your best players, but if we're actually going to compete as well, like, it's not just going to be a given. The fact that it's not just a one-sided argument really does help their cause.
Yeah, and
I know that was a lot there, Joel, but I'm hoping you were able to kind of pick up on that.
Well, yeah, no, it's very true that the United States and that American team that's a good ball club.
Oh, no, hitting wise, that's some
right?
of the best that we have.
The pitching was a little suspect, but that's what I was saying about it, kind of being a battle cry to,
Jacob
some
DeGrom,
of the other players,
Max Scherzers, the Justin Verlanders, and eventually whatever pitchers will be, at the top of their game come 2026.
Yeah, right. But wow, like you said, being able to finally see Ohtani versus Trout, that seminal matchup of the game, the best hitter versus the best pitcher, and Ohtani's like juiced up to throw 1 inning. Like, what a scenario, right? What a situation. And the fact that to make the argument, I guess you can come on, like, it's a really sad state of affairs to come on your show the day after this happens and be like, hey, the first thing that I want to say is that wasn't important.
Yeah.
And you're like, that wasn't important. It's like, listen, I know baseball, and Kirk Gibson 33 years ago is more important than this. It's like, Kirk Gibson didn't hit that home run in front of as many people. Let's rank importance. Who's a better player, Dennis Eckersley or Shohei Ohtani? Who's a better player, Kirk Gibson or Mike Trout? What at bat was scarier? What bat is more entertaining? I understand Kirk Gibson was hurt. I understand it was for the World Series, but that was game 1. That was game 1, right? Kirk Gibson didn't play for the rest of that series. So, it's like it was important. It won one game of a 4-game series, right? But what at bat am I going to watch more for the rest of my life? I'm definitely watching that Trout Ohtani at bat.
Really?
Way more.
Really?
Way more. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like I'm a World Series
I don't know.
guy.
Listen, Joel, I loved that at bat. I think just in terms of baseball history, I'm gonna go with Kirk Gibson, but I respect that of you. I respect it.
Sure, but it's just like if you want to rate, it's like let's make a rating scale on how important something is. Well, it's just like, well, give the check mark to viewership to the WBC, right? Give the check mark to international appeal to the WBC. Give the check mark for the effect that it will have on the game to the WBC. So it's just like if you're giving all of these check marks to that at bat, let's at least say they're equally important.
Yeah.
Right. As opposed to saying, hey, that wasn't as important as this. I'm like, I can probably go the other way and give you so many arguments to say that at bat was 10 times more important.
Really?
Right. And it's just like there's a lot of numbers to back it up. So it's like I'm a World Series guy. I have dreams that my Toronto Blue Jays will win a World Series, and that will be the greatest moment. But like Jose Bautista bat flip, right? That's me seeing one of the coolest moments in the history of the game. And my team is doing it. That's right there.
Yeah.
With that at bat last night. And that's not even me being attached. I'm not American. I'm not Japanese. I'm not a fan of the Anaheim Angels. Where's my connection to that?
Yeah.
It's just baseball.
I mean, I was at least able to say that I'm from the US. I can like root for the US team, but like, no, someone like yourself, like you're from Canada, like you don't necessarily have any direct ties to that, especially the fact that neither of us are Angels fans. But when Mike Trout was playing for Team USA, I was like, that's our guy. Now he's going to go to the Angels, and it's like, oh crap, the Sox have to play against this guy.
Yeah. Like that at bat was beyond fandom.
Yeah.
That at bat was for everybody. Everybody can be a fan of that at bat.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, listen, it was a great time. I really enjoyed it. I'm just going to say this, man. Like if Ohtani ever is able to hit free agency, the record shattering numbers he is going to set is going to be ridiculous. I think Buster Only said he could potentially be the first $600 million player, and people would understand it. And it's like, I mean, just after what you've seen, like this is going to be his year to just absolutely show out.
Well, Babe Ruth 100 years ago put the game on the map, right? And now this weird construction of Babe Ruth, returns and is going to show the game off. Now he's in his prime, he's 29, 29, 30, right? We get this for 10 years. This just got put on a huge stage to say, like, if you're a sports network and your number one story isn't this right now, it's some sort of basketball story, some sort of hockey. Oh, Ovechkin scored 40 again. None of all of that is back burner to what just happened in baseball right now.
Sure.
And so to me, it's just the potential of what that guy is worth. It's beyond worth to a singular team. It is, he is bigger than the game. There's been 5-10 things in the history of the game that are bigger than the game. And it's usually a chase for a home run record, or it's something very specific, singularly, that cannot be repeated year after year. This guy is bigger than the game every single time he takes the field. And when will we ever get that again?
Yeah.
So if you can't market the game around this guy and market a renaissance of baseball with this guy as the face, it'll never happen.
Yeah. I mean, it was incredible to watch this entire series. I mean, to see Shohei, to see Trout in those moments like that was awesome. And then a little side play kind of thing I saw, like, did you see like that Lars Nootbaar going into this tournament? He had like 60,000, 50,000 followers on Instagram. It's now close to like 700,000 followers. Like just going to Japan, like that's what this tournament is meant to do too. It's meant to like, get more people involved in like following players, because that's a big issue as to what MLB has been lacking. Like you see like, on Twitter, you see LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, all these different players have a presence there. The fact that
Rosarania.
Yeah, the fact that these guys are now able to get a following from this tournament, that's another important factor to growing the game. It's not just like the product on the field. It's like, hey, can I be invested with these guys off the field? Do these guys have a personality? We saw with Lars Nootbaar. Yeah, he has a personality. We saw with Shohei in that pregame speech where he said, hey, I idolize these guys, but let's go show that we're better than them tonight. That shows he has a personality and he really wants to succeed on the big stage. So that was something amazing to see. And if he ever gets close to free agency, I just hope the Red Sox take all their money and throw it at him. But with the state that the team is in right now, I doubt it's likely to happen. But something else that you had mentioned earlier, Joel, which I wanted to get into. You said that you would take an Edwin Diaz injury or something to that level at each tournament if it meant the result that we would get. Now, I mean, I
that's kind of evil. That's like saying I want people to get hurt. Like that's not very packaged very well. But yeah, I'm saying that
the risk is
I take the lows for the potential for that high.
Sure. Yeah. And I'll say this, like the ending of that game was awesome. But first of all, I do want to just go on that injury and say, man, as someone who like the Mets are my NL team, and to see the way that Puerto Rico and Dominican game went, because that also had so many like amazing like storylines tied around as well, and it was a terrific game through and throughout. And for it to end the way it did with Edwin Diaz, not even like
Kendrys Morales style, not even hurt baseball action, right?
Like that's the thing. If he had his arm go and he's just like, oh, I felt a pop in my elbow, like I think it would have been less severe of a reaction, because it's like if that was going to happen there when you're on a pitch count, he's coming in for 1 inning. At that point, it was basically something that was going to be bound to happen. It would have been like a ticking time bomb at that point with his elbow. But it happens when the team is literally jumping around, celebrating a victory, moving on to the next round. And just the gut punch that has to be is terrible. I feel terrible for Edwin Diaz because of that. Because you were doing everything right. You succeeded at the highest level. I think he struck out the side too.
Oh yeah.
And
just whiffing everybody. It was gnarly.
Making him look stupid. And the fact that he went down like that, just it's so sad to see. And like
$100 million reliever for the Mets, right? Like they sign him. You lose DeGrom, but you don't lose his stuff in the 9th inning, right? Because he throws that 101 with that just nasty 92-mile-an-hour slider that doesn't make sense. He tunnels those 2 pitches together perfectly. And it's just like you don't have to worry when you've got the lead. You don't have to worry about the 9th. He was that type of closer for the Mets, right? And it's disgusting to see it. So you think that it's a bigger deal because it was a celebration as opposed to an in-game baseball injury?
If it had been just like a typical we've seen it so many times now where the guy just throws and he's like, and like he reaches for his elbow, not even in pain, but he's just like, oh, something feels off there. I don't know if it would have been as big a deal, because it's like it's a freak injury, and it's just like nowhere in spring training. Ironically, the Mets do actually practice celebrations in spring training, which
that's so funny that you bring that up, by the way.
Yeah. They actually practice jumping around. They did this last year, jumping around, practicing like celebrating a World Series or a pennant victory. And I'm like, you guys literally practiced this, and he still managed to break his ankle, or bust up his knee, which is terrible. I hate the fact that happened, but it's like, of all the teams, it's the freaking Mets.
Go look at Don Larson's perfect game in the World Series, and he's like a fist pump, and like Yogi Berra jumps on him and is like, get off me, and he just like walks off, and you're like, there's no celebration at all.
Yeah.
You watch celebrations from that era, and it was just like a pat on the butt, and that was a World Series win, right? Yeah. And it's just, it's gotten to the point where especially in baseball, all of that energy is put into that final moment, and there's that burst, that run out onto the field. Like you think about Carlton Fisk having to literally be a football player from second base home on his home run, bowling fans over, right? Like it's as soon as that moment of joy takes over the fans, the players, you gotta calm down.
Yeah.
You don't just go jump on a relief pitcher because, a lot of people would say pitchers aren't even athletes, so you can go jump on Ohtani a little bit. His hamstrings probably not gonna blow out. His knees probably not gonna fracture, but yeah, it's a terrible, Kendrys Morales jumping on home plate, blowing his knee out for a year, right? Like these horrible fluke, ridiculous injuries that have nothing to do with playing the game.
And that's the thing too, is like, it's just like, those are the injuries that stick with people more, the things that are non-baseball related injuries. I mean, Jose Altuve is not going to be able to touch the field for 2 months now. He's not clear for baseball activity, but people are still talking about Edwin Diaz because of the way he injured himself. So that's why I think, had it been just like, not even a comebacker, but just like an arm injury or like a hammy, and it's something like that, I don't think it would have gotten as bad a reaction as it did. I mean, and because we saw tons of people going on about this. I don't know if you're that into like Barstool Sports or any of those guys, but Kevin Clancy, better known as KFC, he's a Mets fan, and a lot of guys at Barstool are Mets fans, like Frank the Tank, all these different guys. And they're all pissed off at this tournament. They're all saying like, oh, the WBC, like they screwed this over. They're screwing the Mets. Like we're done for. Like, and I'm like, I hate to say it, but the way like some of these guys are reacting is insane. Like I would be pissed off too if one of my star players goes down. But I think Frank, he literally said, "Oh, the Mets are gonna win 4 games this year." And I'm like, if your season is completely tarnished because of a guy that throws 1 inning, then you were not gonna have a shot anyways.
If you think that going from a 90% blown save rate to a 85-84%, like you're going to blow 3-4 more saves, the guy who's filling that spot isn't Edwin Diaz, but he's still a guy who throws 98, and he's going to, like, even if you pop a 3 ERA out of the closing spot, that's not going to take you out of contention. It's just not.
And if in your mind Edwin Diaz was going to be the key of you getting to the playoffs, you were not, or having playoff success, you were not going to have playoff success anyways.
And talk about a position that you can fill.
Yeah.
Like talk about a short-term, you're talking about an inning of relief when you're in the league. Okay. Yeah. You have a payroll you don't care. You don't care about how much money you spend.
No.
Okay. So if you want to fill that hole, you're on the team that doesn't care how much money you spend. And you've got prospects. Gavin Lux, shortstop for the Dodgers, out in February. He took his injury in February, didn't he? Wasn't even in March.
Something like that, yeah.
Right? So it's like, that has more, there's your starting shortstop for
who's a team that has every day,
who has equal aspirations of a World Series in the Dodgers, lose their shortstop. Where are the Dodgers fans? Stop preseason, no more preseason ever. Preseason is killing baseball.
Yeah.
Right? The argument is so Mets fandom based. Like some of my best friends are Mets fans, but they were watching that WBC game last night, and their pain was subsided partially because of how amazing that baseball was. And I know I'm going to say this. I'm a Blue Jays fan, and let's say, heaven forbid, Alek Manoah hurts his knee. Where's some wood to knock on? I'm knocking on it so everybody can hear. And that was what the cost to my team this year, but I got that baseball out of it, right? Like, I don't want to take the bullet, but I'd take it for the game. I would take it for the state of the game.
Really?
Because that was so good for the game as a whole. Might not have been good for an individual Major League Baseball franchise in the short term, but for the game over the next 100 years, it could be galvanized around a moment like that. So if your mindset is, oh my God, a reliever went down celebrating it, let's stop this tournament. Too many people were crying yesterday. It was like the Cubs won. It was a big moment.
And unfortunately, accidents like that happen. I think Sammy Sosa one time got put on the DL because he messed up his back when he from sneezing. It's just exactly. You can't he pulled his back out from sneezing. Like it's like
ban dust.
Yeah, like you can't make that stuff up. And it's like
Manoah and Robbie Ray in 2021 got hurt walking up and down steps in preseason and had to miss games. A guy on the walk-off, Scott Belford, messaged me and he goes, "Hey, when that happened, they didn't outlaw steps." You know, so it's just like
not outlaw steps. Yeah. It does suck, and I will not. I'm not gonna lie. It sucks for Mets fans, but at the closer position, I mean, I'm a Red Sox fan, and in 2013, everything had to basically go right for that Red Sox team, and it, but for the most part, did. Yeah, David Ortiz have the World Series of his life. He had all these like kind of run of the mill guys like Johnny Gomes and Shane Victorino come into this team and really turn things around. But one thing people forget about that team is we brought in a closer for that year. We brought in Joe Hanrahan from the Pirates, pretty solid closer, really reliable guy. We brought him in I think April or May. I think he was pitching in Toronto. He goes again, he feels a pop in his arm. He's shut down for the year. And what did the Red Sox do? They try out a couple different guys. They try out Junichi Tozawa in the pen. They try out a bunch of different guys. And eventually they land on Koji Uehara, who went on to have a fantastic year. And I'm not saying that the Mets will find a guy like that, because 2013 Koji was unhittable. You're not going to find that just out on the market, but it is a position that you can put in as a stopgap. You can figure something out there for a year.
Tomorrow, the Mets could trade a prospect for Scott Barlow and have that spot filled instantly. Okay. They're looking for internal issues to try to solve it right now. If they feel like a prospect is needed to fill that spot, they'll fill it. But this is just short-term issues. We're talking about one roster spot. We're talking about 60 innings. If you can't fill 60 innings, what about a starter going? And what about your starting shortstop going? Right? Like, these are issues. You're talking about 60 innings of relief. Prime relief. Very important relief.
Absolutely.
But this is a commodity that is we're talking about relief pitchers. These guys don't cost $35 million a year. And there's a lot of guys who are on bad teams right now who you can make a deal for and fill that spot.
God forbid it gets to the trade deadline. Cohen has enough money where he will go out and he'll make a splash. It's not a problem. The Mets will figure it out in the pen. It's not going to be the biggest deal. They'll find a way to get through this. So, that's going to be something to really look out for. I'm excited for the way that'll, hopefully unfold. Hopefully Edwin Diaz can come back, be back to his, full self next year. I really hope he can recover from this, because I think it's like a 8-month or something timeline to get back.
Yeah, Marcus Stroman kind of put the record on that I think he was back in 4 months.
Whoa.
He was back in September off practically the same injury. Okay. I'm not saying that happens with Edwin Diaz, but there is a roadmap back that he's magically pitching September innings. That's, a very similar injury happened to Connor McDavid at the end of, I believe, the 2019-2020 season. He literally at 30 miles an hour wrapped his knee around a post to end the season, and he was back for preseason the next year. It was an insanely gnarly injury. They thought he'd miss the entire year. Wow. So there is a roadmap back from this injury a lot faster than what's been projected.
Yeah.
But whatever the case, he'll be back, and they've still got him for 4 more seasons. They'll be fine.
Yep.
Happened to Mariano Rivera when he was 40. Shagging balls in the outfield.
Exactly. So it's like these things can happen. I'm hoping that he can figure himself, that he can get back to the person that he was. So here's that he can get to that. Now, Joel, we're gonna talk about what the MLB can take away from this, and the future that the WBC can maybe inspire in Major League Baseball in the regular season and the postseason. But first, I kind of wanted to talk about my own experience. So I texted you last week. I went down on spring break. I was in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Wow, that was so nice down there. The weather was amazing. The beaches were fantastic, and it was a great time. Spring break was a fun time. That's all I'll say.
I bet.
Yeah.
And you got to see WBC baseball, put those things together. Oh my God, best of both worlds. And two rocks with one bird. That's not a thing.
2 birds with 1 stone. There we go. 2 rocks with 1 bird.
Let's say 2 rocks with 1 bird.
That sounds very backwards, but no. So we were the trip honestly was kind of a last minute thing. I ended up going with someone from my school and then someone from my hometown. It was just kind of like thrown together last minute. I really didn't know where we were going to go, when we were going to leave, when we were going to get back. And it was just like, all right, we're going on this trip. And when this thing was set, I was like, oh shit, we're in Fort Lauderdale. How far is that from Miami? Oh, like a 40-minute drive or a 40-minute Uber ride.
Yep.
Let's see like what WBC games are going on. And I go on my phone and I see like, and I'm just like looking at all these different games. I'm like, oh, noontime, like Nicaragua versus Israel. I'm like, no, like, because I was just like, I'm like, that's just not going to be fun. And like, I see all like these different like things. And one game I came across, it was Venezuela and Puerto Rico. And those tickets were like, at the time when I checked them, they were like $50-$60. And I was like, for the talent on the field, I am more than willing to do that. That seems like a perfectly reasonable ticket price for what that was. And that was the game that I was set on doing. I was literally, so we're in Florida. The ticket prices remain the same for all this time. I go to bed, wake up, getting ready to order the tickets. They tripled overnight. And they went from like $50 to like $175. I was like, I'm not doing this now. Like, this is an absolute no-go. I was like, guys, we're not going to this game. And then all of a sudden, I ran into some other people from my school at Bryant that were also down in the area. We met up with them the day prior. We're hanging out with them. It was a great time. And they end up saying, are you guys going to this game? And we were like, which game? And they say, we're going to see Puerto Rico versus Israel. And I was like, you know, man, let me check out the ticket prices. $10. $10. And I was like, all right, that's
take my money.
Exactly. I was like,
I'll get two for no reason, just to have extra space next to me.
So yeah, like that was set in stone. And I ended up getting, so it was myself and then my two other buddies. We go down to Miami on the Uber ride down. Like we're just, plugging along, trying to get down there. And eventually we get out the stadium. I'm sending you some photos. We're in front of the stadium and like, I can't believe it. The Miami Marlins still have that ugly ass statue.
The abomination, the monstrosity is still there.
I thought Derek Jeter had that thing burned to the ground when he took ownership, but no, they just moved it outside the stadium, which I was like, you know what? Still, I kind of still like the fact they have that. It's a piece of history. It's an ugly piece of history, but you gotta love it. So the vibe there, man, was awesome. You had people on drums, people on like just with horns and bells and whistles. It was a crazy atmosphere. It was not like your average MLB game. People were ecstatic to be there. So it was awesome. And, we were in one section for a little bit and then we moved up to go be with the Bryant guys. It was a ton of fun. Totally recommend it. Great time. So, that was fantastic. It was kind of funny though. The game we went to was, it was an 8-inning perfect game mercy rule by Puerto Rico. They just absolutely went out there and just dominated.
That's something to see though. Is that your first perfecto?
I think that was my first perfecto that I've seen. I mean, technically it wasn't a traditional perfect game because it wasn't 9 innings, but I mean, I'm counting it.
Yeah, there were zeros across the board, right? So the game ends like that, right?
I'm taking it, man. I'm taking it. So
Madison Bumgarner counts his like 7-inning no-hitter, doesn't it?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I mean,
tell him it isn't, right? What's he going to do? He's going to rip you apart.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, it was a ton of fun, man. I mean, only thing I wish I could have gotten was like a souvenir, but they didn't really have any like small souvenirs I could have taken. It was just like, oh, you can buy a Lindor jersey for $200. I was like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I got pictures. I don't know if I can't remember who sent it to me. It may have been you. Somebody was sending me pictures of what they were selling like fragments of the bases for.
Fragments of the bases?
Yeah, from the WBC game, they've cut up the bases and they're selling the base like just like a little piece of fabric from the top of the base, and it's like $600. And it's just God. They're just selling. That entire field is being like auctioned off now for just insane amounts of money. Wow. Some grounds crew guy went and grabbed a bag and it's like, this is $1 million.
That's awesome, man. That's crazy. I mean, there have been so many crazy storylines from this thing. Did you see the Cuban bullpen catcher that defected to the US?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like just like the storylines you're seeing, like it's ridiculous, man. Just all these different guys, like coming over here, like it's wild. I mean, I loved this series. I can't wait for them to bring it back in 3 years. I'm hoping that, more pitchers from the U.S. are willing to actually compete in it and actually have it be a reflection of the best talent that we got, the best talent Japan's got, and, actually see, the best product on the field. That's what I want this to become. I'm hoping it could be something like the Baseball World Cup because, I'm not even a soccer fan, and I'll tell you this, like watching the World Cup last year, it was exciting. So I'm hoping that we can get to that point.
I just like from an international standpoint, like Great Britain got their first win. I know that seems like arbitrary, but it wasn't to them, right? Like that team was so ecstatic to get a win. They beat Colombia, I believe, right? They beat they're going up there, and Colombia's got a major league. The Kansas City Royals are pretty much Colombia, right? So it's like that is a statement. Team Canada, we went 2-2, right? To feel like we didn't make it to the next round or anything, but just to feel like we belong on that stage. Freddie Freeman came and played for us, even though he's not Canadian born, but his mom was Canadian. So that's like, we hope that sends a message to all the Canadian born players out there that, hey, really show up for this tournament, right? And Team Italy, Mike Piazza, seeing him manage, right?
I think Team Italy in a couple years could be very, very dangerous. Because if you think about Italian American heritage and just like all those amazing players that you had in the early like 40s and 50s in baseball,
mm-hmm.
the
DiMaggio's. No, it's so true, and
it's still an influence across baseball. So if you're able to tap into that market and get more of those guys to participate, I think Team Italy could be a team to really invest in the next couple of years.
It's nice to be able to say that, right? I'm looking forward to seeing how this team develops and this team develops and seeing, heaven forbid 20 years from now, some country wins it that you would have never guessed could have won it today. Right. And then that means it's spreading. That means the game is
my best guess, if there's one country that it would be Italy. I think that Italy has the ability to build a team to compete at that stage. I think they can. And I don't know the rules on the WBC. What's it called? Like, to be eligibility, they're kind of a little fuzzier than like other tournaments. So like, what is it? Like you need to either be a citizen of the country, your parent needs to be born there, and then there's like something else.
Yeah, it's definitely not
as strict as other things.
Yeah, when you think about I think about Olympic hockey and the ordeal that a guy like Brett Hull had to go through to be a Canadian and then be an American, right? Like I remember there was it's an issue. It's like you have to be very specific and categorized as being a dual citizen to be able to do it, but not in this tournament. Not at all in this tournament.
Marcus
Rosarena became Mexican 2 weeks ago or something, right? It's just like
I love that too. He said to the Mexican president, "Hey man, if you make me a citizen, I'll play for your country in the WBC." And the president was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?"
It was like instantly the most Mexican guy you've ever seen. He's got the sombrero, he's shagging balls, he's playing like an absolute demon. And everybody's all of Mexico's got a Randy Arozarena jersey. It's just like I love it.
I think that's cool about it is like it doesn't have to be like this really rigid thing. Guys can play for whatever teams that they really want to. I mean, we saw Marcus Stroman. He went from Team USA to Team Puerto Rico because of the influence that his mom had on him. So
I think you brought up Lars Nootbaar earlier, and just the statement of him being the first non-Japanese born player to play for Team Japan says that the strict upbringing of what Japan is and what it is to be a Japanese baseball player isn't, their walls are coming down, right? And they're opening themselves up to be more of a melting pot team, right? Seeing people born not of that land just seems a little bit different. Now that's a standard. Like your leadoff hitter was not born in Japan. And it's just like, that seems like it's more of a Canadian thing, more of an American thing but it's nice to see that the cultures are all spreading and going together just because of that fluidity of nationality that this tournament has.
Yeah. I mean, another team too, I know that they didn't have all that much success in the tournament was the Czech Republic. What a story for those guys. Those guys are just like regular guys working 9-to-5 jobs. The MLB did a series on them where they would say like, "Hey, tell us your name and what you do." And the guy would say, all right, my name's John Smith, and I'm a history teacher at the local high school. And it's like, oh, like
Classic Czech Republic name, John Smith.
no, yeah, I'm sorry. I could
Just
I mean, I would say something like my name because I'm Ukrainian, so I'm kind of actually from that area. So, but I
there you
was
go.
just like, but I'm like Brian. I'm Vladimir. I'm Vladimir Kostiw. Like it's just like, oh yeah, and I'm a
There we go.
and I do marketing for the Czech team. I'm like,
And I struck out Ohtani today.
yeah, it's
Like
like
one of them did. Like a plumber struck out Ohtani, didn't he? Like a Czech Republic plumber.
I think so. So it's
Right?
like
Like this is the greatest thing in Czech Republic baseball history.
now they're going to need a little bit more time to, I think, really marinate and actually get to where they're going to need to be. But still, it's a great story all around. I love the fact that those guys made the tourney. It was a ton of fun.
It really was. It
Yeah.
just is. I love it.
Now, Joel, obviously, we are kind of getting towards the end here, but I wanted to say, as we prepare for the MLB season, getting back to, the baseball that that we are excited to watch year in and year out. I wanted to wonder if there was something that you could take from this WBC and bring it to MLB. What would it be? Just like one element from the WBC, what would that be?
The international crowd reactions.
Hmm.
Just hearing there's like if you go and you watch like Japanese baseball, it's like there's always like a horn in the background. There's always a reason to stand up. There's like they keep the emotion and the energy level up in the stands somehow for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And if there's any way to just bring that energy to the game and any way to make it so the layman baseball fan isn't doing this, anything to make them so they're not on their phone looking away from the game and feeling like the pitch clock has pretty much done a great job of like, you know, engaging us and making us constantly look at the game. But at the same time, that 3 hour and 40-minute baseball game last night didn't seem 1 second too long. So, it's if there's anything that it's just that I love that international fan, the Latin American fans, just the way that the energy courses through those buildings. And if I can see that in the United States and that takeover, I'd be all for it. Just thunder sticks and trumpets and all sorts of noise going on. That's for there to be a sound to baseball. The ambient sound of baseball right now
it's like golf.
Yeah, right. Baseball's happening. Right. That doesn't need to be like that. It can be like doot doot and doot 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 and there can be a little trumpet and thunder sticks and there can be all that ambient sound going on. I love it.
Yeah, no, that's what I love about it too. I mean, you see the way that these games happen down in the Dominican Republic. I think I saw one stadium, like you're able to order like Wendy's or something at your seat. Like I was just like, imagine being at a seat and you could be like, yeah, I'll take a Baconator. Like it's just like it makes absolutely no sense. But yeah, just like that atmosphere is something I'd like to bring to it as well. I wasn't alive for it at the time, but or at least for like when it was really kind of going on. But when Pedro Martinez first came to the Red Sox, I was, I've been told like every fifth day in Boston where Pedro was pitching, it was like a cultural event because you had people and you kind of got something close to those Latin American games or like those Caribbean games where it was really like, where you had guys really into it like that. So I'm hoping that would be something we can eventually bring to the MLB. If there's something I would like to bring to the MLB, it would be something similar to the side of it'd be something similar to where you mentioned crowd reactions. I want to see the players be more into it. And I know that for 162 games to get pumped up on every play is a lot. I'm not asking for that. Like that's like the MLB season, it's a marathon, not a sprint. We know this. But in bigger moments, to see a guy like who was the guy on Team Colombia? It was Jose Quijada. Is that how you say his name?
What was the specific incident?
Just like where he was having like the jersey like unbuttoned.
Oh yeah, he was throwing and the jersey kept unbuttoning off, and they made him button it up, and he was still getting strikeouts.
And he's hyped. Like, he's like flexing the jersey. He's like ripping it off him. Like I don't know, just seeing guys like get really pumped up like that on the mound. You see it sometimes in the postseason, but with the way a lot of baseball players are, they kind of believe in like, all right, I don't want to like jinx myself and get too cocky or do anything like that. You'll still see some guys do it, and but then they're afraid that it's gonna like bite them in the ass. I just wish you would see more of that passion, like in bigger regular season moments, see guys get really hyped up on a moment that isn't just a walk-off home run. Obviously, you're going to get excited for that. But I want to see more guys like on the rail of the dugout, hyped up for like, a marquee matchup like we saw last night with Ohtani and Trout. I want to see, more people like, it's not that often that you see guys like clearing the dugout for like big home runs like that. Like when Trey Turner hit that grand slam against Cuba, the entire dugout cleared out, where you don't typically see that in a regular season game. You'll see the guys that were on base celebrate with him, and then you'll go in the dugout, you'll have a big hurrah. I'm fine with like these guys having bigger reactions like and whatnot. That's what I want to see more of.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
It's not a change. It's not like you're changing the game. You're just changing the way the players are reacting. And I just wish that we can see more of that in these regular season games, because I think we'd be in for a real treat.
Yeah, that goes to say with like miking up players, hearing the game a little bit more, letting their personalities pop, because the baseball's always been such a, no personality kind of game. Personality's shunned upon, whether you're a pitcher or you're a hitter. You can't show up the other side, right? There's this, old man yelling at cloud mentality that we cannot, that you can hit the only home run you're allowed to cheer for is the walk-off home run that wins the World Series, right? Mm-hmm. That was the mentality for like only Bill Mazeroski and Joe Carter were ever allowed to celebrate for the first 100 years of baseball. That's the only moments worthy of celebration. But now we realize that it's the hardest game to play in the world, right? Hitting a fastball and tuning up a ball 450 feet is an absolute miracle. And to try to no emotion match, right? Yeah, it shouldn't be possible. If Trout would have dialed up one of those 100-mile-an-hour fastballs and blasted it to the moon, that's an impossibility, right? So it's just when it happens, the miracle of a home run, we should be able to enjoy it, because you see a lot of them, but they're still a rarity. They happen every 30, 40 at bats, and they should be able to just feel a bunch of joy. There's a lot of joy in this game, and I don't think the fans want to sit there and see amazing moments and be like, that nothing happened. I did an amazing thing. Walk off grand slam. That's it. One high five only. It's let them feel things. Emotion is what these games are built off of. So
yeah, I agree. Well, Joel, it's been a great time talking with you once again. I mean, this is, what I love to do, talking baseball with you. So thank you so much. We're now down to the wire, which means that we're going to wrap up what we talked about in this episode and send you guys on your way. Thanks again to Joel Laflamme, aka Hey Kami. Joel, it's always a pleasure.
Thanks, Brian. This time just flies. We talk baseball, and we get into a time vortex. It's like Interstellar, and time's going 10 times faster, and everybody's a lot older when I get out of this. I go, how did that happen?
Yeah.
So thank you.
Absolutely. All right. But we talked about the ending to another great World Baseball Classic. Japan besting the United States in this one, 3-2. Shohei Ohtani taking home MVP honors. We talked about Ohtani's impending free agency, injuries throughout the WBC, and the risk and reward, as well as my personal experience going down to Miami. It is a scene down there. So I'll also, quick word on Miami. I just want to say, absolutely beautiful ballpark that the Marlins play in. It's a shame that their team just isn't able to advance any further in to a World Series or to the playoffs even, because I honestly think a playoff game in that atmosphere would be absolutely electric. I mean, we saw it last night with the WBC, but just a regular playoff game too. That venue is incredible. I don't know if you've ever seen just a regular shot of that ballpark. It is amazing.
Well, I think 2017 All-Star game was there, I think.
Yeah.
Right. They did the home run derby, and Trout and Ohtani and Judge and Stanton, I think, were both in it, and they were hitting 500-foot moonshots, and it really seemed even back then that it's a great place to hold a really big event when it comes to baseball. It's a great place to just awesome atmosphere, the Latin American atmosphere. They love baseball so much, right? So to be able to tie into that.
No, and I mean, just looking out in left field, you have these big windows. You kind of get a view of the skyline. In left, I don't know if you know, in left field, they have a club in left field. It's
they don't have the fish tanks anymore. They don't, right behind home plate.
I don't know if they have the fish tanks anymore, but in left field, they have a club. It used to be the Clevelander, but then they ended up getting rid of it. And now it's some other sports bar now. But me and my friends, we were up there and we're just seeing like a DJ and like different lights and just strobe effects. And I'm like, oh my God, this is just at a baseball game. I'm like, this is crazy. So, definitely a great ballpark to check out. I highly recommend it. But just wanted to say one more quick thing on that. We also ended with talking about MLB's what MLB could take from this year's WBC and apply to the regular season and postseason. But yeah, that's what we discussed today. It was a great time talking with you, Joel. I'll give you some time now if you want to shout out yourself and your socials. So go ahead.
Yeah, you can always check me out on Hey_Kami on TikTok. That's where I do my consistent baseball stuff. Got some really nice stuff coming out this year that I'll be able to talk to probably on the next time that I'm on the show. And yeah, you can check me out Sundays on the Walk Off podcast. That's Blue Jays stuff. So probably not too many people on this podcast want to tune into that, but
hey, you never know. You never know.
You never know. You might want to hear what the opponent's up to and what we, the smoke that we blow up our own ass or butts. Oops. About baseball.
That's fine. That follows FCC guidelines.
Okay, I can say that one word. Awesome. I kept it clean for an hour there, and then I bumble it right at the end. But yeah, no, that's where you can find me. Hey_Kami at TikTok. Come check out some baseball stuff. It's inclusive to everybody. No real fan base orientation at all. Just baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. And then if you want to follow Down to the Wire, you can follow us on all streaming services like Spotify and Apple. We're on YouTube, and then you can follow us on Instagram for all updates at down.to-the-wire. Thank you guys so much. We've been actually streaming this live on WJMF 88.7 HD2 Smithville, Providence, the heartbeat of Bryant. So thank you guys so much. Take care and peace out.